Morbid Ataraxia is the fourth full-length album from brutal death metal band Putridity. This is a band that have always been kind of along the lines of like Gorgasm and Disgorge in terms of the extreme brutality and the focus of what they're doing. They don't really take as many breaks as like Deeds of Flesh might in terms of they just rattle through their entire album in about 25 minutes, and they're always blasting, and the nuance to the tempo is really what makes it interesting other than the absolute over-the-top craze of it all. There isn't that much to say about a brutal death metal band in 2025 other than they're still doing it in the old school way, but they've warmed the production values. They've kind of updated their sound a little bit, but their focus is still very much on that early 2000s brutal death metal sound, the kind of stuff that was coming out of like Unique Leader and even when Willowtip, their current record label, then over time and now. In a sense, not much has changed here, but we'll listen to a clip and I'll talk a little bit more about what makes this record worth listening to. So to start, in practical terms, they've got a new drummer, Cedric Malibolgia, who definitely brings in his own style, but still this is a very straightforward 280 beats per minute brutal death metal album, and he's pretty much cracking away at it the entire time. They do take a couple of breaks, they do slow down on a couple of songs. That's kind of what stands out here most to me. It's not like all of their records were just a throttle entirely, but this one stands out for breaking up the space a little bit more and throwing in some bigger riffs, throwing in a few more breaks for the bass guitar to peek around the corners, and there are a couple of kind of immolation-esque moments to the riffs that I enjoyed along the way. So not copious notes to take here. It's a very intense album. It's one where you're going to find the nuance again through repetitive listening. And I'd found that while I didn't appreciate the use of samples, they're not really important to my experience. It is in line with their past and a lot of the bands that have influenced them. The interesting thing is they've got this sound. It sounds like a looping sample from a game like Doom, where it's kind of a bubbling noise that carries through a lot of the album. It comes before and after a couple of songs briefly, and then it separates the secret cover of an Enmity song with like 4 minutes of this repetitive noise pulsing back and forth, and it's kind of annoying. And the record is only 34 minutes, but about 5 of that is just that noise peeking in and out, and it makes for a theme that carries through in terms of sound, but also just kind of a weird sound that when you've got the stereo cranked up and it's doing it for a couple of minutes, it's both surreal but also a little aggravating, which is just fine for a brutal death metal album. Be as aggravating as you want. This has always been a very over-the-top band in terms of their lyrics and imagery, and this is actually one of their more tame album covers by far, but they haven't really tamed what they do, and I think that's important, is that they've brought up that old standard. They've really hit upon what makes putridity, and they're still pretty much over the top. I would say that they've just like a vulvectomy earlier this year, they've reeled it in a little bit so that it's not quite as grotesque in terms of the lyrics, but it's still there and still very much the classic Putridity sound you're looking for on approach. I will say that this isn't just a dumb brutal death metal record. The reason it gets a high recommendation is because the riffs are there. There is stuff that you're going to pick out of this record when you go back and listen to it on repeat and really source the drive of those rhythms and the guitar interplay. It isn't just a bunch of chaos. There are riffs, and I think that I enjoyed that part of it, and listening to it repeatedly and just kind of getting hypnotized by that zone of brutal death metal. So if you're a fan of that kind of feeling, check it out. It releases next week on June 27th, and go ahead and read my written review for more of my thoughts.